Hello everyone, I'm Santiago and today I'm gonna be testing Insurgency on the GeForce GTX 1050 Ti. For performance monitoring, this time I won't be using cam due to BattleEye, which is the anti-cheat software this game uses, so in the meantime I'll be using MSI Afterburner. So Insurgency, I'll be doing 1080p, 1440p and 4K. To skip turn out those sections of the video, check the timestamps down in the description. So well, first of all, I'll show you 1080p on the G4560 to show you that there's a difference between this CPU and the i3. Despite that this game was made using the source engine, you can clearly spot the differences between the i3 and the G4560's performance, especially in this video at the very start. You can notice that the i3 can be over 20 FPS above, but that's usually when you're targeting higher frame rates, usually over 70 frames per second or something like that. The G4560 is still enough to be at 60 frames per second the big majority of the time, but not really something to be concerned about. It should still be a completely playable game. Then I switched to the i3 8100, again 1080p with the same settings, including 4x MSAA, but if you want a performance boost, usually disabling that helps. Then I switched to 1440p, and once again I used the highest settings, so there's not an expensive anti-aliasing solution going on at 1440p, and again we're over 60 frames per second without much of a problem at all. And finally at 4K I had to lower the settings drastically in order to be over 60 frames per second. So yeah, I forgot to mention, my target in this video is to be over 60 frames per second, or just as close to that as possible, but if you just disagree, put 4K max settings, you should be over 30 frames per second just fine. So yeah, at 4K I lower shadows, shaders and effects to medium, then I turn off anti-aliasing, disable soft particles, and I lowered the scope detail from the highest to low. And you might ask yourself why? Well, the scope detail is very taxing. When you're looking through a scope, you're not actually zooming the whole camera like most games. On this one you only get the zoom into the scope itself, like a real scope does, but that's very taxing to render. If you lower the scope detail, you have a lot more aliasing while looking through the scope. In my opinion, not a big deal, but it helps a lot to maintain consistent frame rates when you're aiming down a scope, so that's something to keep in mind. And well, now I'm going to briefly talk to you about the options menu. We have the usual options in source engine games: the global shadow quality, the model texture detail, the shader and effect detail, all that kind of stuff. So what I will lower first is the scope detail and the soft particles, since when you're using a scope, again, very taxing to the GPU, and you can lessen that impact by lowering that. Then soft particles, it helps a little bit, but then after those options I'll start lowering shader, effects and shadows. Those are usually the most taxing options. I like lowering them in groups instead of just lowering one option. It's usually not enough to lower just one. I play with AI bots, so I can play the same thing over and over, and this video was mostly because I really like this game and it's usually very cheap on Steam sales. As of right now we're at the Steam Summer Sale 2018 and the game is at $2, so for that price in my opinion is completely worth it. But yeah guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you keep enjoying the video, thanks for watching and see you next time.
We are taking Bravo. Got a man down. Enemy down. Nice down. Shit, we lost a man. Enemy down. Your team is down, you're all that's left. Lost a man. Someone just went down. Bravo! Nice, we just took Bravo. Did somebody get this guy a medal? Friendly down. We are taking Bravo. Friendly is hit.
I need to reload!
Friendly's down. Bravo is clear, we got it.
I'm loading a new magazine. Hey, I gotta reload! We're taking Charlie now. me! RPG, head down! Fucking idiot!
He's got a man down.
I'm loading a new magazine. Okay, loading.
Fuck, one of our guys is down. Team member is hit. Someone just went down. Bravo now. We lost a man. We lost a man. I got no hostiles at Bravo. Bravo is clear, we got it. We lost a friendly.
Changing magazine. This is bullshit!
Down. Charlie has been secured. Nice.
Loading!
Good job. Hostiles coming into Charlie. Charlie is under attack. taking Alpha. I don't see any hostiles at Alpha. We have hostiles attacking Bravo. Alpha is hot. Alpha is hot.
I gotta reload!